My name is Robert Kingsley, and I'm just an ordinary guy who found himself caught up in a dangerous game when a chance date turned into an international conspiracy. Set against the backdrop of London's rainy streets and bustling pubs, a story unfolds where romance and espionage intertwine with a touch of genuine humor. On that rainy evening when everything seemed ordinary, my life suddenly turned into a real thriller, and I had no idea that fate was preparing a meeting for me that would make my blood boil and my humor soar. My name is Robert Kingsley, just an ordinary guy working at a bank, dreaming of little adventures, never imagining that one unlucky attempt to meet someone in a London pub would turn into an international conspiracy. I emerged from the underground into a downpour, as if stepping out from the hands of fate itself. The rain hit my face, as though trying to remind me that even gloomy London has its whims. And then, at the very moment when the droplets grew ever bolder, I noticed her, an elegant, mysterious woman in a long coat, standing under the neon glow of one of the many street lamps. Her posture, her subtle smile, and the glints in her eyes were so effortlessly enchanting that I almost believed the rain was merely a backdrop for her grand entrance. "Robert, you've finally decided?" a voice rang from behind me, alluring and teasing at the same time, as if fate itself had decided to play a cruel joke. I turned and saw her, Lilian Devereaux. That was the name she used, as if it were a secret password to enter a world where every word was filled with enigmas and unexpected twists. "Excuse me, madam," I began with a smile, trying to hide the tremor in my voice. "But do you really believe that rain can be nothing but a meteorological phenomenon? I think it hints at something truly thrilling waiting for us today." Lillian's gaze swept over the wet cobblestones, as if checking whether I had set up some absurd pun, and she replied, "Oh, Robert, if you only knew how boldly you step into the unknown, perhaps you'd already understand that fate loves those who dare to take risks. Haven't you heard that the best stories begin with a raindrop?" We stepped into a cozy pub where the flickering candlelight and the low hum of conversations created an atmosphere of mystery, so typical of London. The pub's time-worn walls held secrets of many lovers, traitors, and grand adventurers, yet tonight it seemed they were ready to reveal their juiciest mysteries. Behind the counter stood the bartender, a tall, slender man with eyes full of mischievous spark, as we took a secluded corner where time seemed to stand still for a moment. "So, Robert," Lillian said, leaning in close so that her voice became like a secret whisper, "tell me, why did you decide to leave your cozy world of balance sheets tonight? After all, behind every report hides a story far more intriguing. Isn't that so?" I grinned, shaking my head slightly. "Oh, my dear, in a world where numbers can be as dull as a rainy morning, daring to step beyond the familiar is nothing short of heroic. Tonight I decided it was time to take a risk, not just for myself, but to understand what it truly means to live." At that moment, laughter erupted in the bar, and even the old pianist playing in the far corner seemed to feel that something more was hidden behind our words than just a banal conversation about life. Our eyes met, and in that fleeting moment I sensed everything around us beginning to play in new, vivid hues, bright and contrasting, like a mosaic of old English legends. It wasn't long before the conversation shifted to strange encounters, mysterious characters, and, as it turned out, a case that carried the shadow of an international conspiracy. Lillian began recounting a story that made it hard to imagine that a romantic date could turn into a full-blown spy thriller. "You know, Robert," she began, glancing over her shoulder as if expecting to see someone suspicious lurking there. "Today I received an anonymous message. It stated that a deal capable of overturning an entire international network was about to take place right in the heart of London. Yes, exactly so. A deal involving influential people who held not only destinies in their hands but also millions of pounds." I coughed, trying to conceal my growing excitement. That sounds like a blockbuster plot, Lilian. But tell me, who is this he who dared challenge fate and step into this game? Lilian smiled, gently shaking her head, as if amused by herself. Robert, you can't imagine just how complex the world of spies and intrigue is. My message was signed the Eternal Guardian. I had never encountered that name before, yet it evoked thoughts of some ancient order, keepers of secrets capable of changing the world. Our conversation was punctuated by the clinking of glasses, the staccato patter of rain on the windows, and the quiet laughter of the patrons. Yet every word from Lilian felt like a coded message. We agreed that after a couple of pints we would continue our discussion in a more secluded location, in an old mansion said to be frequented by people who could turn fate itself on its head. Leaving the pub, we stepped back into the drenching rain, as if challenging the very elements. I watched the droplets glisten on the pavement like tiny crystals and felt that each drop carried a piece of history hidden in the shadows of London's streets. Lilian glided skillfully through the wet roads, and I, trying not to fall behind, felt like a participant in an adventure that could end either in tragicomedy or in a true triumph. Robert, are you sure you're ready for what might await us? Lilian asked as we stopped by an old storefront reflecting our wet silhouettes. I smiled, despite a slight flutter of nerves. Of course, Lilian, I replied with a confidence that perhaps wasn't entirely genuine. After all, if even the rain can set us up for an adventure, what other element could possibly stop us from moving forward? And so, in the twilight before nightfall, we headed toward the mysterious mansion, reputed to be the epicenter of strange events. The door creaked as if warning us that behind it lay not only lavish interiors, but also secrets capable of shaking the foundations of our everyday world. Our footsteps echoed in the corridors, and I felt that every step brought me closer to uncovering a great mystery. In one of the mansion's halls, we encountered a man dressed in a strict suit, with cold eyes that betrayed not a hint of a smile. His voice was even and frigid. "Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Mr. Montgomery, and I welcome you to this evening where every second might prove decisive." Without missing a beat, Lilian replied, "Mr. Montgomery, we are aware that this evening hides more than mere social chit-chat. We have come for answers." Mr. Montgomery tilted his head slightly, as if appraising us. "Answers," he said evenly, "can often be more dangerous than questions. But please have a seat. I assure you, everything will go according to plan." We sat at a long table draped with a marble cloth, and the conversation quickly escalated to an unusually high level. The atmosphere was tense, yet every word carried an undercurrent of irony, as if fate itself was laughing at our attempts to grasp the essence of what was happening. "So," said Mr. Montgomery, "tell us, Madame Devereaux, how did you become entangled in this conspiracy?" Lilian sighed as if recalling a long-held secret. "It all began with a simple meeting. I received an anonymous letter stating that in the very heart of London a deal was brewing, one capable of turning the world upside down. That letter, signed by the enigmatic Eternal Guardian, thrust me out of my comfort zone. I knew I couldn't ignore such a challenge. I interjected, and here I thought my riskiest move was grabbing a crepe at 3 a.m., but apparently, fate decided that I should play a real game with high stakes." Mr. Montgomery smirked, and for a moment a heavy silence fell upon the room, disturbed only by the ticking of clocks and the distant echo of raindrops. Just as I thought the situation was spiraling out of control, Lilian broke the silence unexpectedly. "Robert," she said, "you know that in our lives, as in a good novel, even the most trivial remark can be decisive. What do you say if we add a touch of genuine humor and make this evening unforgettable?" I couldn't disagree. After all, if fate had chosen to play with us in such a manner, we should answer with a smile and a hint of self-irony. The conversation continued, filled with absurd observations and unexpected twists. We discussed how even the dullest bureaucrat might be a spy if he happened to carry a secret notebook in his pocket, and how the London rain was not just water droplets, but a symbol of life's eternal unpredictability. Every quip and humorous comment was like a brick in the wall separating us from the mundane. Imagine, I said, flipping through a yellowed page, if one of these officials became so engrossed in his report that he mistook it for secret documents. And now imagine if that report turned out to be the evidence of an international conspiracy. Lilian laughed and added, Robert, you'd be the hero of the day, and I, the queen of an unexpected twist. That's how it is. Between accounting and espionage lies a fine line that only a true adventuress can sense from a few steps away. At that moment, Sir Reginald Worthington, a tall man with a thick beard and eyes filled with wisdom and weariness, entered the hall. He introduced himself as a former intelligence agent, now an exile from a world where truth always turned out stranger than fiction. His voice was deep and resonant. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, I know you are in search of answers. Believe me, I have seen everything in life, from the most absurd conspiracies to the grandest tragicomedies of fate. Perhaps my assistance will prove useful. Lilian's eyes brightened immediately. Sir Reginald, we need all your wisdom, for even if this story seems fantastical, reality sometimes turns out to be far stranger than fiction. Still holding the key in my hand, I exclaimed, So, ahead of us lie even more tangled mysteries and unforeseen twists. Do you think that, by uniting our efforts, we can unravel this knot of intrigue? Sir Reginald smiled, though a trace of sorrow mixed with merriment shone in his eyes. Robert, sometimes one must risk everything to understand that laughter is the best weapon against fate. If you're ready, I am ready to go with you until the end. And so, united in this incredible alliance of unlikely heroes, we began studying the documents. Every line, every stamp, every signature became a clue pointing us towards the unraveling of a conspiracy capable of altering the course of history. We joked and exchanged ironic remarks, as if the whole world around us were a grand comedy of errors, where even the most dangerous circumstances could be turned into an opportunity for laughter. Tell me, I said, examining a faded photograph of a woman with a dazzling smile and an icy gaze, doesn't she remind you of the famous Anna Delacroix, the former MI6 operative? Lilian chuckled, brushing away any doubts. Robert, you have a knack for finding humor even in the gravest matters. But honestly, this story has turned into a veritable kaleidoscope of secrets, where even the smallest detail might be the key to the mystery. We continued to scrutinize the contents of the table, sifting through documents that recounted tales of clandestine meetings, absurd mistakes, and incredible coincidences. Every line seemed to have been plucked straight from a screenplay, where humor and danger intertwined so closely that it was impossible to tell which came first, the laughter or the fear. At that moment, another character entered the hall, a tall man with a bushy beard and eyes that radiated both wisdom and exhaustion. He introduced himself as Sir Reginald Worthington, a former intelligence agent and now an exile from a world where truth is always stranger than fiction. His deep, resonant voice filled the room. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, I know you are searching for answers. Believe me, I have witnessed everything in life, from the most absurd conspiracies to the grandest tragicomedies. Perhaps my help will be of use. Lilian immediately perked up. Sir Reginald, we need all your wisdom, for even if this story seems fantastical, reality can be far stranger than fiction. Still holding the key, I exclaimed, So, ahead lie even more tangled mysteries and unforeseen twists. Do you think that by joining our efforts we can unravel this web of intrigue? Sir Reginald smiled, though there was something both sad and joyful in his eyes. Robert, Sometimes you must risk it all to understand that laughter is the finest weapon against fate. If you're ready, then I am ready to accompany you to the very end." Thus, united in this incredible alliance of unlikely heroes, we began poring over the documents. Every sentence, every stamp, and every signature became a clue, leading us to the heart of the conspiracy that could reshape the very fabric of international intrigue. Our banter, laced with daring sarcasm and genuine humor, echoed throughout the room, making even the ancient portraits seem like participants in this grand comedy of fate. "Imagine," I said, leafing through a yellowed page, "one of these bureaucrats getting so caught up in his report that he mistakes it for secret documents. And now, imagine if that report turned out to be the evidence of an international conspiracy." Lilian, laughing, added, "Robert, you'd become the hero of the day, and I, the queen of an unexpected twist. That's how it is. Between accounting and espionage lies a fine line that only a true adventuress can sense, even a few steps away." At that moment, Sir Reginald, as if sensing that time was running short, rose and pointed to a distant corner of the hall. "Take note," he said. "Over there is another safe. I suspect it hides documents that could tip the scales once and for all. But remember, not all that glitters is gold. Sometimes the truth is hidden in the most unexpected place." We exchanged glances, understanding that fate had once again prepared a trial for us. Still clutching the key, I felt my heart beat faster, my mind whirling with thoughts that sometimes risk is not just a word, but a true challenge to fate. Lilian, her eyes sparkling with anticipation, approached the safe and, as if casting a spell, said, "Let's see what lies behind this door. Perhaps this safe holds a secret that will either bring us new hope or force us to bet everything on a wild gamble." Sir Reginald nodded approvingly and, with remarkable precision, retrieved an antique set of lockpicks from his pocket. The room fell silent, disturbed only by the faint rustling of the tools and the monotonous tapping of the rain against the windows. Every second felt like an eternity, our faces reflecting both determination and an unspoken thrill. "Robert," Lilian whispered, "if tonight marks the beginning of a great change, I promise we will remember it for the rest of our days, even if tomorrow everything turns out to be nothing but fate's absurd joke." I smiled, feeling how laughter mingled with apprehension, forming a bizarre cocktail of emotions. With remarkable care, I inserted the key into the lock, and for a moment everything froze. In that instant, childhood memories flashed before my eyes. Those evenings when my mother would say that every new experience is a chance to discover the unknown. Now, her words rang truer than ever. I turned the key, and the creaking of the door seemed to be accompanied by the applause of an invisible audience of fate. As the door swung open, a hall unfolded before us, filled with ancient paintings, old books, and strange artifacts. In the center of the room stood a massive table strewn with papers, blueprints, and photographs capturing the faces of people renowned for their global influence. Each portrait seemed to proclaim, "We are here, and we will not allow ourselves to be deceived." "Look at this," I exclaimed, pointing at one of the photographs depicting a woman with a radiant smile and an icy stare. "Doesn't she remind you of the famous Anna Delacroix, the former MI6 operative?" Lilian laughed, dispelling any lingering doubts. "Robert, you have a way of finding amusement even in the gravest situations. But honestly, this story has become a veritable kaleidoscope of secrets, where even the smallest detail might be the key to unlocking the mystery." We continued examining the contents of the table, sifting through documents that recounted tales of clandestine meetings, absurd mistakes, and incredible coincidences. Every line seemed plucked from the script of a movie, where humor and danger intertwined so seamlessly that it was impossible to discern whether laughter or fear came first. At that moment, another character entered the hall. A tall man with a thick beard and eyes full of wisdom and weariness. He introduced himself as Sir Reginald Worthington, a former intelligence agent now exiled from a world where truth always turns out stranger than fiction. His deep, resonant voice filled the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, I know you seek answers. Believe me, I have witnessed everything in life, from the most absurd conspiracies to the grandest tragicomedies of fate. Perhaps my help will be useful." Lilian immediately brightened. "Sir Reginald, we need all your wisdom, for even if this tale seems fantastical, reality can be far stranger than fiction." Still holding the key, I proclaimed, "So, ahead lie even more tangled mysteries and unexpected twists. Do you think that, by joining forces, we can unravel this intricate web of intrigue?" Sir Reginald smiled, though there was a touch of melancholy mixed with mirth in his eyes. "Robert, sometimes you must risk everything to understand that laughter is the best weapon against fate. If you're prepared, then I am ready to go with you until the very end." Thus, united in this extraordinary alliance of accidental heroes, we set about studying the documents. Every sentence, every stamp, every signature became a clue leading us toward unraveling a conspiracy capable of altering the very face of global intrigue. Our dialogue, brimming with bold sarcasm and sincere humor, resonated in the hall, making even the ancient portraits seem like active participants in this grand comedy of destiny. "Imagine," I mused while leafing through a yellowed page, "one of these officials so absorbed in his report that he mistakes it for secret documents. And now imagine if that report were the very evidence of an international conspiracy." Lilian laughed and added, "Robert, you'd be the hero of the day, and I, the queen of an unexpected twist. That's how it is. Between the world of balance sheets and espionage lies a fine line that only a true adventuress can sense from just a few steps away." In that moment, Sir Reginald, as if sensing that time was slipping away, rose and directed our attention to a far corner of the hall. "Take note," he said. "Over there is another safe. I suspect it conceals documents that could ultimately tip the scales. But remember, not all that glitters is gold. Sometimes the truth is hidden in the most unexpected places." We exchanged looks, understanding that fate had once again set a challenge before us. Still clutching the key, I felt my heart quicken, thoughts swirling that sometimes risk is not merely a word, but a genuine challenge to fate. Lilian, her eyes gleaming with anticipation, moved toward the safe and, as if casting a spell, declared, "Let's see what lies behind this door. Perhaps this safe holds a secret that will grant us new hope or, conversely, force us to wager everything." Sir Reginald nodded, and with remarkable precision produced an antique set of lockpicks from his pocket. Silence fell over the room, disturbed only by the soft rustle of the tools and the rhythmic patter of rain against the windows. Every second stretched into an eternity, our faces mirroring both resolve and a hint of exhilaration. "Robert," Lilian whispered, "if tonight marks the start of something monumental, I promise we will remember it for the rest of our days, even if tomorrow everything proves to be nothing more than fate's absurd joke." I smiled, feeling how laughter intermingled with apprehension, forming a strange cocktail of emotions. With remarkable care, I inserted the key into the lock, and in that suspended moment, images from my childhood flashed before my eyes. Those evenings when my mother said every new experience is a chance to discover the unknown. Now her words rang truer than ever. I turned the key, and the creaking door seemed to be accompanied by the applause of an unseen audience of destiny. As the door swung open, a hall unfolded before us, filled with ancient paintings, old books, and curious artifacts. In the center of the room stood a massive table strewn with papers, blueprints, and photographs, capturing the faces of people renowned for their global influence. Each portrait seemed to proclaim, "We are here, and we will not allow ourselves to be deceived. "Look at this," I exclaimed, pointing to one of the photographs depicting a woman with a dazzling smile and an icy stare. "Doesn't she remind you of the famous Anna Delacroix, the former MI6 operative?" Lilian laughed, dismissing any lingering doubt. "Robert, you know how to find humor even in the gravest matters. But honestly, this story has become a veritable kaleidoscope of secrets, where even the tiniest detail might be the key to unlocking the mystery." We continued to study the table's contents, sifting through documents that recounted tales of clandestine meetings, absurd mistakes, and incredible coincidences. Every line seemed to have been plucked straight from a screenplay, where humor and danger intertwined so seamlessly that it was impossible to tell which came first, the laughter or the fear. At that moment, a tall man with a bushy beard and eyes full of wisdom and weariness entered the hall. He introduced himself as Sir Reginald Worthington, a former intelligence agent now exiled from a world where truth always proves stranger than fiction. His deep, resonant voice filled the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, I know you seek answers. Believe me, I have witnessed everything in life, from the most absurd conspiracies to the grandest tragic comedies of fate. Perhaps my help will be useful." Lilian immediately brightened. "Sir Reginald, we need all your wisdom, for even if this tale seems fantastical, reality can be far stranger than fiction." Still clutching the key, I proclaimed, "So ahead lie even more tangled mysteries and unforeseen twists. Do you think that by joining forces we can unravel this intricate web of intrigue?" Sir Reginald smiled, though there was a touch of melancholy mingled with mirth in his eyes. "Robert, sometimes you must risk everything to understand that laughter is the best weapon against fate. If you're prepared, then I am ready to accompany you until the very end." Thus, united in this extraordinary alliance of unlikely heroes, we set about examining the documents. Every sentence, every stamp, every signature became a clue, leading us toward unraveling a conspiracy capable of altering the very course of international intrigue. Our banter, filled with daring sarcasm and genuine humor, echoed throughout the hall, making even the ancient portraits seem like participants in this grand comedy of destiny. "Imagine," I mused, while perusing a yellowed page, "one of these bureaucrats so engrossed in his report that he mistakes it for secret documents. And now, imagine if that report turned out to be the very evidence of an international conspiracy." Lilian laughed and added, "Robert, you'd be the hero of the day, and I, the queen of an unexpected twist. That's how it is. Between the world of balance sheets and espionage lies a fine line that only a true adventuress can sense from just a few steps away." At that moment, Sir Reginald, as if sensing that time was slipping away, rose and directed our attention to a far corner of the hall. "Take note," he said. "Over there is another safe. I suspect it conceals documents that could ultimately tip the scales. But remember, not all that glitters is gold. Sometimes the truth is hidden in the most unexpected places." We exchanged glances, understanding that fate had once again set a challenge before us. Still clutching the key, I felt my heart quicken, my mind swirling with the thought that sometimes risk is not merely a word, but a true challenge to destiny. Lilian, her eyes sparkling with anticipation, moved toward the safe and, as if casting a spell, declared, "Let's see what lies behind this door. Perhaps this safe holds a secret that will grant us new hope, or, conversely, force us to wager everything." Sir Reginald nodded, and with remarkable precision produced an antique set of lockpicks from his pocket. Silence fell over the room, disturbed only by the soft rustle of the tools and the rhythmic patter of rain against the windows. Every second stretched into an eternity, our faces reflecting both determination and a hint of exhilaration. "Robert," Lilian whispered. "If tonight marks the start of something monumental, I promise we will remember it for the rest of our days, even if tomorrow everything proves to be nothing more than fate's absurd joke." I smiled, feeling how laughter intermingled with apprehension, forming a strange cocktail of emotions. With remarkable care, I inserted the key into the lock, and in that suspended moment, images from my childhood flashed before my eyes. Those evenings when my mother said, "Every new experience is a chance to discover the unknown." Now her words rang truer than ever. I turned the key, and the creaking door seemed to be accompanied by the applause of an unseen audience of destiny. As the door swung open, a hall unfolded before us, filled with ancient paintings, old books, and curious artifacts. In the center of the room stood a massive table strewn with papers, blueprints, and photographs capturing the faces of people renowned for their global influence. Each portrait seemed to proclaim, "We are here, and we will not allow ourselves to be deceived." "Look at this," I exclaimed, pointing to one of the photographs depicting a woman with a dazzling smile and an icy stare. "Doesn't she remind you of the famous Anna Delacroix, the former MI6 operative?" Lilian laughed, dispelling any lingering doubt. "Robert, you know how to find humor even in the gravest matters. But honestly, this story has become a veritable kaleidoscope of secrets, where even the tiniest detail might be the key to unlocking the mystery." We continued to study the table's contents, sifting through documents that recounted tales of clandestine meetings, absurd mistakes, and incredible coincidences. Every line seemed to have been plucked straight from a screenplay, where humor and danger intertwined so seamlessly that it was impossible to tell which came first, the laughter or the fear. At that moment, amid the soft echoes of rain and whispered secrets of ancient mysteries, I realized that this night would change me forever. I, Robert Kingsley, an ordinary guy from London, had become a participant in a game where the stakes were higher than I could have ever imagined, and where laughter was the best weapon against all adversities. In every breath, every witty remark, every unexpected twist of fate lay the promise that even in the most dangerous games of love, one can find a light capable of dispelling the deepest darkness. Our voices, mingling with the rain's echo and the soft murmur of ancient secrets, became the hymn of that night when everything changed. Laughter, ever our steadfast companion, sharp, sincere, and unpredictable, just like life itself, reminded us that regardless of the outcome of this tangled conspiracy, Lilian and I would forever remain the heroes of this comedy of destiny. Thus began our incredible journey, a journey where every second was like a new turn in the plot, where every dialogue, imbued with humor and irony, reflected our belief that even in a world of espionage and international conspiracies, there is always room for genuine laughter and love. We decided, in that magical, mad world where everything seemed absurd and preposterous, to see it through to the end, undaunted by risk, unafraid of unforeseen twists of fate. From the very moment the safe revealed its secrets, our lives were swept up in a whirlwind of events, even more mysterious than we could have imagined. I, Robert Kingsley, along with Lilian Devereaux and Sir Reginald Worthington, felt that fate had decided to test our resolve and sense of humor by thrusting upon us challenges as absurd as they were dangerous. We exchanged glances as if we were participants in the most farcical play, where every word could turn out to be both a salvation and the cause of a humorous misunderstanding. Before us on the table lay piles of yellowed documents, old photographs, and letters that seemed to contain everything, from unsaid secrets to comical mistakes of years gone by. In every line there was a touch of irony, as if the authors had decided to joke about the very fact of the conspiracy's existence. Lilian, her eyes sparkling with mischief and a slight smirk, was the first to break the silence. "Robert, if I had to guess, I'd say these papers aren't just documents. They're a true kaleidoscope of absurd stories. Imagine one of them reads like a checklist for crazy bureaucrats." I laughed, unable to resist adding, "Indeed, Lilian, there are so many mistakes here that we could hold contests for the most ludicrous typo. But perhaps it is precisely in these mistakes that the key to the conspiracy lies. If someone is so careless with these documents, they must be sure that no one would ever think to read them." Sir Reginald, who had been carefully examining one of the photographs, finally looked up and added in his characteristically grave tone, "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "within each small detail can lie the seed of truth. We must find those clues that will help us form a complete picture. And as I like to repeat, laughter is our most dangerous weapon, for it disarms even the most cunning of conspiracies." Our conversation was interrupted by a sudden shadow flickering in the doorway. The door creaked open once again, and a man in a dark coat with a wide-brimmed hat appeared. His arrival immediately added a note of tension and puzzlement to the room, for his gaze, full of mysteries, indicated that he had not come by chance. "Good evening," he said in a quiet but confident voice. "My name is Mr. Ashton. I've heard that people who deal in secrets gather here, and I thought that perhaps I could be of some assistance." Lilian immediately frowned, but I, feeling that this encounter was yet another twist of fate, extended my hand resolutely. "Robert Kingsley, at your service. Tell us, Mr. Ashton, what brings you to our modest hall of secrets? Isn't it true that even in the most tangled story, new characters always appear?" Mr. Ashton gave a cautious smile. "I am merely an observer, though observation sometimes turns into participation. Recently, I received information that one of these documents is, in fact, an ancient map leading to an even greater mystery, a map capable of overturning our understanding of who truly controls the shadows of London." Sir Reginald frowned. "An ancient map, you say? That sounds most intriguing, but allow me to ask, how can you be sure that this document isn't just another forgery designed to confuse us?" Looking straight into Sir Reginald's eyes, Mr. Ashton replied, "Confidence comes with experience," he said, "and my experience tells me that sometimes even a forgery can be used to flush out the real criminals. My information is based on testimonies gathered from the darkest corners of London's canals, and if you don't mind, I would like to take a look at the document in question." We exchanged glances, and Lilian, ever ready for a new adventure, said, "Well then, Mr. Ashton, show us your map. Perhaps it holds the key to unlocking this absurd spectacle." The man carefully removed from beneath his collar a slender scroll, wrapped in worn paper that immediately evoked a sense of antiquity and importance. He unrolled the scroll on the table, revealing a map drawn in fine ink, with intricate lines and mysterious markings pointing to places about whose existence even local legends were silent. I leaned in closer to scrutinize the details and said with a wry smile, "If this map were lying on my kitchen table, I'd immediately wonder how it might inspire dinner plans. But here, in our Hall of Secrets, it appears as an invitation to the very heart of a dangerous adventure. Do you really believe it leads to something important?" Mr. Ashton nodded. "I believe that behind every mark on this map lies a story that must be uncovered by those willing to take a risk. And I am convinced that you are precisely the ones capable of solving this riddle. We must not only decipher the meaning of these symbols, but also find a way to reach the place where, as they say, a great secret is hidden." Lilian, glancing at the map, laughed. "Robert, imagine an ordinary evening in London, rain, pubs, and then a treasure map. It's as if fate decided that dull evenings have no place in our schedule. Let's continue our adventure." We agreed that our first task was to figure out the mysterious markings on the map. Several points were indicated: an old canal, an abandoned station, and, most intriguingly, a small gallery on the banks of the Thames, where secret meetings were said to take place. Sir Reginald immediately proposed, "It seems we are in for a tour of London's shadowy corners. I have no doubt that there is more hidden in these places than mere history. But, ladies and gentlemen, I warn you, on the way we might encounter not only enemies, but also unexpected allies. I added with a smile, well then, if our fates are already intertwined with this map, we cannot retreat. Even if the rain falls in torrents tonight, we march toward the truth, armed with wit and courage. Our band left the hall behind, departing the echo of lively conversation and ancient mysteries, and headed for the exit. Outside, London greeted us, as always, with rain, chill, and lights reflecting in puddles like magical mirrors, showing the reflections of the most incredible adventures. We boarded one of the old tram routes, which seemed to be a living witness to countless stories. Inside the tram, among vintage seats and the dim glow of lamps, we discussed our upcoming route. Lilian, leaning slightly toward me, whispered, "Robert, sometimes I think London is not just a city, but a huge labyrinth where every corner holds its own secret. And if we don't keep laughing, we'll be lost forever." I laughed and replied, "If we do get lost, let's be happily lost wanderers, searching for answers to questions we never even dared to ask. After all, life is the most amusing journey, full of unexpected turns." The tram rattled with its old wiring, and outside familiar streets flashed by, shrouded in the mist of rain. We eventually stopped near the old canal, where in the moonlight long shadows were cast and water gently lapped against stone banks. According to the map, this was the location of our first mysterious point. On the bank, we encountered local street performers, musicians, acrobats, and even a couple of old healers who seemed to collect stories as one might collect old coins. One of the acrobats, with genuine enthusiasm, called out to us, "Hey, gentlemen, want to hear the story of how this very canal once saved an entire neighborhood from an invasion of, well, let's say, not-so-friendly spirits?" Lillian exchanged a look with me, and I, with a slight smirk, answered, "If this story is even remotely true, then perhaps we will find something important here, and if not, there's always a chance to laugh." Mr. Ashton and I cautiously moved along the bank, examining every detail and every mark that might guide us. A small inscription on a stone caught our attention. It was etched with numbers and letters reminiscent of the markings on the map. I studied it and said, "Sir Reginald, look, this might be our first key. These symbols match those we saw on the map. It appears that someone deliberately left us a clue." Sir Reginald nodded and added, "Exactly. We must document this. Even if it turns out to be just local folklore, sometimes truth lies hidden in the simplest things." Observing our actions, Lillian remarked with light irony, "Well then, gentlemen, if we've become a walking museum of mysterious inscriptions, perhaps we should equip ourselves not only with lockpicks, but also with a notebook. After all, every little detail today could be the joke of tomorrow." Laughter, as always, relieved the tension, and even the local passers-by, hearing our conversation, smiled in response. But the matter was serious. Ahead lay the gallery on the Thames, a place where, rumor had it, the most enigmatic figures of London gathered. We continued on, discussing not only the mysterious signs but also anecdotes about the most absurd situations imaginable. The tram, our conversations, and rainy London created an atmosphere where every minute felt both dramatic and comical. In such moments, even the gloomiest rain turned into a source of inspiration for jokes and unexpected discoveries. Arriving at the old gallery, we found that the building, covered in graffiti and the patina of time, seemed to invite us into its world of secrets. At the entrance stood a figure in dark sunglasses, with a slight hint of sarcasm on her lips. She appeared to know everything that was happening in this forsaken corner of London. "Welcome, seekers of truth," she said, tilting her head as if greeting old friends. "I am Miss Evelyn Carter, the keeper of this place's memories. If you are looking for answers, perhaps they are hidden within these walls." Lilian, wasting no time, smiled and said, "Miss Carter, we are not here by chance. The map, the mysterious markings, and even the street performer stories have led us to you. Tell us, what do you know about this place?" Miss Carter, carefully studying our faces, replied, "This gallery was once the center of creative gatherings where artists and poets crafted true masterpieces. But one day a mysterious tragedy occurred here, turning the gallery into a place shrouded in secrets and fears. They say that in the underground passages beneath the gallery are hidden documents that reveal the truth about what goes on behind the scenes of London's grand intrigues." I felt something click inside and declared with newfound determination, "Then our only choice is to venture into those underground passages and discover what lies behind this myth. For if the truth is capable of changing the course of history, then we are duty-bound to find it." Miss Carter nodded. "But I warn you, the path to the truth is not always straightforward, and here you will face not only mysteries, but also challenges that could make even the bravest tremble. Only those who retain their sense of humor and faith in a bright future will be able to overcome these trials." We left the gallery filled with determination, and strangely enough, with a light smile. The rain continued to fall like a melody accompanying our adventure, and London presented itself in a new light, a city where even darkness and danger can be transformed into reasons for laughter and new discoveries. That same night, we gathered in an old underground passage leading to the entrance of the gallery's basements. The atmosphere was electrified with anticipation, and our hearts beat in unison with the echoing steps in the dark corridors. In that narrow passage, every sound, every rustle, seemed part of a grand symphony composed by fate itself. Lilian, holding a flashlight, whispered with irony, "Robert, if this night turns into yet another chapter of our crazy story, I promise laughter will be our guide even in the darkest tunnels." I laughed and replied, "Then get ready, Lilian, for a laughter that will carry us through all these fears at dawn. After all, if we've managed to turn every twist of fate into a celebration, what can possibly frighten us in these underground corridors?" Step by step, we moved forward, our path illuminated by the flickering light of our flashlights. The corridors were narrow, the walls adorned with old inscriptions and strange symbols reminiscent of long-forgotten rituals. In one such corridor, we came upon a massive door decorated with intricate patterns, behind which, according to Miss Carter, lay the main secret. Before opening the door, Sir Reginald stopped and said, "Friends, remember, sometimes behind the most mysterious doors lies not only danger, but also the opportunity to see the truth. Be cautious, but never forget to laugh. This is our greatest ally." With those words, I, with a mix of excitement and a broad smile, reached for the door handle. In that moment, each of us felt our pulse quicken, and time itself seemed to pause in anticipation of the unknown. I turned the handle, and with a dull thud, the door swung open, revealing a spacious room bathed in the soft glow of ancient lamps. In this room we discovered numerous items: antique chests, worn books, strange artifacts, and at the center, a massive table on which lay yet another stack of documents, neatly arranged as if someone had been specifically awaiting our arrival. I approached the table and said with a smirk, "It seems fate has decided that our adventures will never end. Look, another set of puzzles ready to be unraveled if we dare to peer inside." Lilian, carefully examining the papers, added, "These documents are written with such elegance that I'm almost convinced they could be reprinted in the finest humor magazine. It appears even the conspirators couldn't resist adding a touch of irony." Sir Reginald rejoined the conversation, his voice calm and reflective. "Friends, never forget that behind any conspiracy hides human nature, with all its weaknesses and humorous moments. Even the most serious secrets can be amusing if you view them from the right angle." We began to study the documents, turning pages that each seemed like a bridge between the past and the present. Among the many papers, I found a letter signed with a mysterious name that made me ponder. Lilian, look, this letter is dated over 100 years ago. It mentions the name, the Eternal Guardian, which, as it turns out, has surfaced in our conversations more than once. Perhaps this isn't just a signature, but the key to the entire mystery. Lilian leaned in, her eyes alight with curiosity. Robert, if that is truly the case, then a labyrinth of secrets unfolds before us, where every detail is like a piece of a mosaic. And perhaps it is here that we will find the answer to the question, what is the Eternal Guardian? At that moment, we heard a soft rustling, as if someone, hiding in the shadows, was trying to approach us unnoticed. Our eyes quickly met, and I remarked with a hint of self-irony, "It seems even the walls of these underground passages don't want us to learn all the secrets. Let's welcome our guest with open arms, or at least with plenty of questions." From the shadows emerged a young man in an unremarkable coat, his eyes betraying a hint of embarrassment. He introduced himself as Mr. Oliver Shaw, and his voice trembled as though he feared awakening ancient spirits. "Pardon the intrusion," he said, "but I overheard your conversation and couldn't stand aside. My role in this story may seem insignificant, but I know that these documents are the key to a conspiracy that spans centuries." I nodded, appreciating his sincerity, and said, "Welcome, Mr. Shaw. The more voices, the more interesting the game. Tell us, what do you know about this conspiracy?" Gathering his courage, Mr. Shaw began to recount a story about a secret society whose members had controlled the course of events in London for centuries. He spoke of ancient rituals, meetings in the shadows of old churches, and of how even the most mundane documents might be part of a grand plan. His tale was so incredible that we couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it, while at the same time feeling that behind every word lay a grain of truth. "Imagine," he concluded with a slight smile, "that even the most serious people sometimes hold outrageous feasts where, instead of wine, laughter is poured, and instead of weapons, wittiness." Lilian, unable to contain her laughter, responded, "If I had known that in the world of conspiracies one can laugh just as heartily as at a family celebration, I would have become a spy back in my childhood." Surrounded by ancient secrets and absurd revelations, we continued our journey in search of the truth. Every step in the underground passages, every document we uncovered, and every new character we encountered made our story increasingly thrilling and unpredictable. Laughter remained our constant companion, unexpected yet steadfast, even when the world around us seemed dark and mysterious. I realized that this evening was only the beginning of a long road, where at every turn, challenges, bold decisions, and of course, many humorous moments awaited us. For if fate sends us conspiracies and secrets, the best response is a smile and the willingness to laugh, even when it seems that the whole world has turned upside down. Gathered together, old friends, new acquaintances, and chance companions, we accepted fate's challenge. Amid the sound of rain, in the shadows of ancient corridors, and against the distant hum of the city, we made a choice: to go all the way despite all dangers, and to find in every moment a spark of humor that can light even the darkest path. Thus continued our strange and amazing odyssey, where the past intertwined with the present, and every new secret made us laugh, wonder, and believe that even in a world of espionage, there is always room for genuine human warmth and lightness. And so our incredible kaleidoscope of adventures came to an end. And as it turned out, it wasn't as frightening as it had seemed at the very beginning. I, Robert Kingsley, sat in a cozy armchair at a London cafe, sipping a strong espresso and reflecting on how strangely and absurdly the threads of fate had intertwined in my life. The rain, which once seemed like an impenetrable veil of mystery on the streets of London, was now behind me, leaving only memories that felt as comforting as a warm blanket on a cold evening. Lilian Devereaux, Sir Reginald Worthington, and even the enigmatic Mr. Ashton, who had once burst into our Hall of Secrets with an ancient map, had all journeyed through that whirlwind of events where intrigue and espionage intermingled with sincere jokes and witty remarks. Strangely enough, every new twist of fate turned out to be a lesson. Even if the world around us is turned upside down, true happiness lies in the ability to laugh despite all the hardships. I recall how it all began on that rainy evening when the droplets on the London streets hit my face, as if warning, "Get ready, everything is about to change." And it did change. Not only did my outlook on life mature, but I also came to understand that even in the most convoluted conspiracies, there is always room for laughter. After all, it is said that laughter is the universal key that opens every door, even those leading to the darkest basements. We experienced amusing mishaps, uncovered ancient secrets in abandoned galleries, wandered through narrow underground corridors where every crack in the wall could tell its own story, and met characters as if they had stepped right out of a novel where humor and danger walk hand in hand. Every encounter, every word, became an integral part of our story, leaving behind only warm memories and genuine smiles. Lillian, with her inimitable grace and wit, often said, "If life hands you conspiracies, turn them into anecdotes." And how we laughed when even ancient documents, which seemed to be prisoners of global intrigues, transformed into a delightful game of coincidences. And Sir Reginald, with his wisdom and unhurried smile, always reminded us, truth is not only found in cold facts, but in the warmth of the human heart, which can melt even the ice of the oldest secrets. We exposed more than one scheme, untangled a web of intrigues, and most importantly, found the strength to believe that even in a world of espionage, one can remain human and never forget to laugh. Sometimes, when I look back, I marvel at how incredibly thin the line is between danger and delight, and how wonderful it is when that line passes through a heart capable of finding joy even in the most absurd situations. Now, sitting in this quiet cafe, I realize that our adventure was not so much about uncovering conspiracies as it was about finding ourselves. It was about believing that laughter can diffuse any tension. Every raindrop, every spark of conversation, and every encounter with a new person became pieces of a mosaic that now forms the picture. Life is a celebration if you know how to rejoice in every moment. And so, as the rain finally ceased to pelt the windows and the city was bathed in soft evening light, I smiled, remembering Lillian's words. If the whole world is a comedy, let's play our roles with flair. Yes, my friends, everything has changed, and now I know. Any conspiracy or secret is no threat when the heart is filled with laughter and love. Let fate continue to joke, and we will greet it with open arms and an infectious smile. Thank you for joining me on this amazing journey through the streets of London, where every story is a reason to laugh, and every encounter a lesson in courage. And remember, even when the rain subsides, only one thing remains: the genuine, heartfelt feeling that life is beautiful. Thank you for listening to Dangerous Date in London until the very end. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you won't miss new thrilling stories where spy intrigue intertwines with humor. If you enjoyed it, hit like and share the video with your friends. There are even more mystical secrets and incredible adventures ahead. The next story is just around the corner. Are you ready to dive into a world where laughter and risk go hand in hand?